Let me introduce to you the EduTouch EE panel. This recording has been done using Vitello Share, a wireless screen sharing app, which allows us to give you the clearest images we can. What you see in front of you right now is the home screen. Now, what you'll notice at the top is a black box, which you can move, and it has letters and numbers, and this is what's used to connect your panel using Vitello Share to a desktop, laptop, iPad, or mobile phone. What you also will see is that there are 9 apps on the actual front screen. We've got today's date and the time, and then on both sides you'll see we have some sidebars which are able to be moved. They are identical, it just depends on which side of the panel you happen to be on at the time. You'll notice over in the bottom left that we have the internet access, whether you're Ethernet or Wi-Fi. And then over on the right-hand side, you'll see there are 9 dots, which gives you additional apps. What I'd like to do is to start with working with the sidebar, then I'll move over to the options on the main screen, and then lastly, look at the additional apps. So looking at the options on the sidebar, the first one, the grey one there, is actually used to let you go back to the previous screen. It will always bring you back to this screen here. So it doesn't really matter where you are or what you're doing. You will always have a sidebar and you will always be able to come back to this home screen. If you do have your devices connected via cables, so there are 2 cables, there is a HDMI cable and a touch cable. If they are connected, then you will always have a sidebar on that device and you'll be able to then always come back to home. If you want to use touch on the device that you're using, it's important that you use both of those cables. The HDMI cable will give you the visual and the audio, but it's the touch cable you need if you want to run your device through the panel and actually stand at the panel and touch it and make it work as if your hand is a mouse. The third one down shows you any open apps you have. So just like on a mobile phone, you have open apps. It's exactly the same on your panel. Now, do visit this frequently because the more you have open, just like on a phone, it slows down the phone. It's the same with the app. It will slow down the panel. So you'll see here we have a few things open. So basically you can just flick them off. Or alternatively, the other option is to clean all processes at the bottom and just click on the broom in the bottom right and it will remove everything. Now, why this is a handy tool is that you can actually set things up. So early in the morning when you're coming in, prior to running your class, you could come in and, for example, and click on the whiteboard. And then you could go in there and you could set up your notes and do whatever it is that you want to do, set up your lesson plan. And then we would go back to the sidebar and click on home. Then you might say, well, I actually also want to go into the browser. So we could click on the browser, type in the YouTube link that we want to do or whatever it is you want to do in the browser, and then we could go back to home. We also might want to, for example, go into Finder and look at and access some of our files. And then what we could do is go back to home. So once we've got everything set up that we want, what you'll notice is that it will show you what we have open. So in this case, we've got the Chromium open and we've got our Note. So if we want to go back to the whiteboard, we can just tap the whiteboard and there you go. And the lesson that you have would already be displayed. Let's go back to home and let's look at the next options down on the sidebar. The next one down is the annotate. Actually, no, the next one down is the whiteboard. I'm going to come back to that and do that at the end. But the next one down, the yellow one, is the annotate. Now, if I click on the annotate, this allows you to draw. This is probably one of our most popular features of the panel, one of the most popularly used tools. So you have a pen. The default color is red. You can see we have red. If we tap on it, we can go black. We've got blue, we have green. So you can choose the color that you want. The next one along is a highlighter. So you can highlight things. Now, one of the things that this panel has is what they call 20 points of touch. So what that means is you can have 20 fingers at any point in time on the panel. So if you had 20 children, for example, standing right side by side, they could all use one finger to actually do it. The next one along is the sweep option. So what that's going to do is actually remove everything off the panel. But if you wanted to only remove a little bit, what you can do is use your hand. So this is called the gesture mode. You can use the side of your hand like that, or you could use your thumb. I use the base of a thumb. You can use your whole hand, you can use your fingers. And what you do is you touch the panel, and then what you'll see is that it will come up, allowing you to erase just a little bit of the actual images that you see there. The next one along is a save option, and what that will do is it will save exactly what you see on the screen here, like the entire thing. It will save it as a file, as a photo on the panel itself. So that way, it doesn't matter what you have projected, whether it be the browser and you've been highlighting and circling things, whether it be a document that you have open and you've been working on it, whether it be a PowerPoint that you've been brainstorming on, whatever it is, whatever you see on the panel itself, that's exactly what will be saved and saved on the panel. And I'll show you where that would be saved a little later. And lastly, we can click on the cross, and that's just going to close that all down. Continuing on the sidebar, the next one down is a zoom. Now, what that will do is a couple of things. It does freeze the screen, but also it lets you make things larger or smaller. And you can use your hands on the panel. So putting your two hands on the panel and separating them will also make the images larger. The next lot down is the toolbox. What the toolbox does is has a variety of tools. Some of these are amazing. One of my favorites is the spotlight. So clicking on the spotlight, you'll see it's not that dark right now. So what we need to do is click on the cog, the settings cog in the center bottom, and move our alpha all the way to the left. Now you'll see that it's very dark. So what we can do is you can then move this. So just like you had a torch at night and you were shining it, and that's all you can see, that's exactly what this does. So you can move that. It is an amazing tool for helping children to focus on whatever it is that you want them to see. You can make that larger by putting your two hands on the panel and just separating it. It will then make that go larger. Okay, so let's close out of there. The next one along in our toolkit is our countdown timer. So we'll click on the timer. Now the timer will appear everywhere. So you can see I can move it around. It will always appear on the top of whatever we have open. So if you have, for example, your whiteboard open and you would like to give the children all, 5 minutes each to do something, then it's going to sit over the top of that particular whiteboard. So whatever you're displaying, it will sit over the top. Let me change this to 5 seconds. And what you'll see is when I started, that it also has a 4-pronged arrow to the right. Now, if I tap that, what happens is it makes a red screen. Okay, so we'll close out of there. Now, the other one that you'll see, the next one in our toolbox, is a stopwatch. So similarly, it will just count down the amount of time that it's taking to do something. And lastly, we have our Air class. Now, Air class requires that people scan this QR code, and they need to be on exactly the same LAN with the panel, so the same subnet. Now, what we can do, and I'm going to show you, I'll do it with my mobile phone, is that I will scan this QR code. So I just have to go to a QR scanner. You don't need any apps or anything like that. You just need to scan it, and then that particular app will open up. I then am able to put in my name. So I'll type in my name. And then I have two options at the top, which are to answer a question or to put in a message. Now, if I click on so you'll see on the screen here as the teacher that one person has joined and that you as a teacher can now enter the class. So if I click on enter the class, what you'll see is a menu at the bottom of the screen. Now, obviously the first one there to the right is to exit. The next one along, the manager, will always bring up that QR code again. So if some of the students were late and they needed to join the class, you're able to bring it back up again. The third one along is the message. Now, what this does is it allows you, when you turn it on, it allows you to ask the students a question and their answers are going to go scooting across the top of the screen. So on my device, I will click on message and just say the question is, what's your favourite colour? I would then type in yellow and then click on send. And what you'll now notice is that my answer is scooting across the top. So isn't that a lot of fun? Now, it does not save those messages anywhere. It's just something that you can have the children have a bit of fun and be interactive. Coming along, you'll see the next slide are the selector. What this does, unfortunately, there's only me on, but if you had a number of people on, you could say select up to 3 people if you needed to make a team or something and click on start, and it's going to go through selecting those 3 people. The next one along, the responder, what this does is that it actually works out who is the first person to respond. So you would ask the students a question. So you might say, is it true or false that the sky is blue? And so you would click on start. And then you would wait for the person to respond. So you can do this in a number of ways. It could be that you're getting people to do a particular sum, a particular exercise, and it's the first person who finishes would click on OK. The next one along then is the judge. Now, both the judge and the voter are where you're asking the children some questions. The voter is multiple, so you can see A, B, C, D. Judge is actually true and false. So, and you'll notice across this white bar that there's a grey box and that we have one person in the class and at the moment they haven't answered. So as the teacher, you would ask a question. And then what happens is the student then would come in and then, so we would begin. So we're beginning, we've asked the question, we click on begin. I would now go false and okay. You'll see it now pops up with my name saying that I have answered 1 of 1. So you'd know that any little grey boxes means that the people haven't responded yet. And then when everyone's done, you would click on finish. What it then does is it will show you the answers. And if the answer was actually true, we could click on true and it will tell us that it's not right. By tapping on the actual boxes, the answers, it will show us a list of the students who actually answered those questions. So it can be great for brainstorming and looking at things later. And of course, you can click on explain where it will then reduce this down and pop it, for example, onto your whiteboard. The last one there, the voter, works exactly the same. The only difference being that you have a choice of up to 6 A, B, C, D, and E, and F of different options that they can choose. Okay, so that's really the voter. I'm exiting out. Let's go down then and look at the last one here, which is the input source. And this will show you what you have connected. So Android is the actual panel itself. You'll see there's a green dot. If you had connected with cables, it would have the different options there as well. And you would see a green dot below whichever's been was linked in with cables. And then over in the bottom left, you've got the actual volume itself. And then in the bottom right, you've got the brightness. Now, so that's really looking at the sidebar. Let's move on now and let's look at these 7 features on the main screen. The first one, input, is exactly what we just looked at. You do, though, have some extra features. If you wanted to click on advanced, you'd be able to look at some extra features. Okay, the next one there, Cleaner. Now, Cleaner is important to do. What it does is it will allow you to, what it does is it allows you to clean the panel, and it helps to keep it running at optimum speeds. So what you'll notice is that you can clean the memory. So just like on a computer, when you need to go occasionally clean the cache, you need to do that on a computer as well. And sometimes you need to clean the trash. Now, what that does is it just will delete any deleted items that you may have. You can either do them separately, or you could click on One Key Optimize, and what that will do is it will actually clean the memory, and it will clean up the disk space as well. I do this fairly frequently just to keep it running optimally, maybe once a month. You need to do it optimally, not very frequently, but do it frequently. The next one along is My IG3. My IG3 has a number of applications that are available. These are on a 1-year subscriptions basis, and you can see here we have intervention systems of maths and English, we have a ReadMe and a number of languages, and of course the Learning A to Z programs. If you'd like any more information about those, please contact us on info@ig3education.com.au, or give us a call and we can talk you through the features and let you know what they're all about. Let's go back to the home screen. And the next one down is the Chromium, which is the browser. So a browser is a browser. So we would just use that. It's exactly the same as any other browser that you're working on. Let's go back to home. The next one there, Finder. Finder lets you work with files. So you'll see that we have the storage. Storage is the panel itself. These are the folders that are on the panel. You can't change those folders. What you can do down in the bottom left-hand side, you'll see there is a folder with a plus. And what that does is it will let you create new folders. So you could have folders then for your resources. You could have folders for the students. So if they do work, you're able to put their work into those folders. What you'll also notice is to the left of the new folder button is a select option. So this allows you then to select multiple folders or files. Now I'll turn that off for now. And what I'm going to do is just to pop a USB in, because you can use a USB to transfer information between the panel and your computer, for example. There are 2 USB ports in the bottom right-hand side of the panel, and then there are a number of USB ports around the side as well. You'll now notice that it has USB, and you'll see that we have a whole range of different folders here. One thing to note is that if you do a single tap on something, it will select it. A double tap will open it. So, for example, if I do a single tap on PDF, you'll see it's now selected. Now, you can tell it's been selected because down in the bottom center of the screen, it comes up with a range of different icons, allowing you to copy, to cut and paste, delete, rename. The other option you have would be a send me, and I'll show you this option in a moment. Double tapping on something actually opens it up. So you'll notice then that we have a range of different PDFs here. So if I do select one, and then just say I want to then move it to the panel, I could go and click on the send to storage, and then it's going to take it directly and place it on the on the panel. One thing this is useful for, I'll just go back to the storage or the USB, is to select multiple things. So for example, if I click on select, we can imagine that this is our USB and we have a whole range of resources. We could go select, 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 select. We want to place them onto the panel. You would then go send to and click on storage, and they're automatically going to be placed onto the panel itself. It's actually copying them. It's not renaming. Let me then go to the storage. And then you'll see here is the file that we actually just moved over. So let me tap on that, and I'm going to click on delete, and we can delete it. What you'll notice is really it works very similarly to using File Explorer on a computer. Having a look in the folder that says notes, this is where you are going to notice that this is where it's going to place anything if you're using the whiteboard note, this and save any files, this is where they'll be. And you also have this folder mark, and that's where you'll also find some of the pictures from the annotate that we looked at. So everything will be in this folder called Note. Okay, so that's really the whiteboard. Let me then move on from here, and we'll go to settings, and then I'm going to come back to Note. When you look at settings, what you'll notice is really this is used by the IT people to set up the internet, but you do have some options with sounds and different things like that. But I would imagine that in most cases that you would not be using this. It would mainly be the IT people. The next thing to look at are the 9 dots in the bottom right-hand side. So if I click on that, you'll see that what we have is a range of apps. Now, we have looked at most of these. The first one there, Vitello Share, there is information on Vitello Share. There are manuals around, and there are resources on our website as well. So have a look at those and check them out. Chromium is the browser as well. Cleaner we looked at. Cloud Drive, if you are using Google Drive or OneDrive, then you're actually able to connect that in so that you can access your information directly from there. Finder we looked at, which was the file management system. My IG3 we looked at, which was where we can go to those range of software applications that you can use to help with your students. Note is the whiteboard, which we're going to come back to in just a moment. And the next one then is the screen lock. Now, I would not recommend that you use the screen lock. You'll notice with the screen lock that it lets you put in a password, and to remember that it's a panel password, not a person password. So if you set a password on the panel, it means that everybody who is going to use that panel needs to know that password. So if you have a relief teacher or something coming in, then they need to know the password. Another option is to use your remote control. So on the remote, you'll notice that there are 4 coloured buttons in the centre of the remote, and the red button is actually the one that will allow you to remove the touch off the panel and also disable the on-off switch. So you need to point the remote to the actual sensor, which is over on the bottom right-hand side near the USB ports, and just tap it once quickly and it will come up and tell you that it's locked. And then removing the touch, putting the touch back, you just tap it again, the remote, and you'll get it all back. Then looking at our apps again, we've got settings, and then lastly, WPS Office. WPS Office allows you to work with Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and PDF. And you'll notice here that you can have a look at those files, opening up items that are on your USB, for example. You'll see that there is actually, where it says the pad, the USB, then you can select from there. Okay, so let us close out of here and go back to home. And there we go. Now the SD card is actually the panel itself. So if there was an iPad or any cloud storage, so you're able to actually use things from the panel, you're able to use things, which is My Documents, you're able to use things from the cloud, from the USB, and also an iPad. Just noting that if anything's on the USB, although you can edit them on the panel itself, you actually can't save it again onto the USB. You would need to save it onto the panel. So that's really the WPS Office. So I'm going to go back now to home, and let's start looking at the whiteboard. The whiteboard is an amazing tool, probably something that you'll find you use a lot of. So moving down to the bottom left-hand side, we have these 3 lines. So these lines are called a hamburger menu. And if I select the hamburger menu, what you'll see are a number of options. Now, the first one I want to look at is the background. You're able to actually change the colour of the background. So what you see now is the default colour, but you can change it to any colour that you like. Other options you have are texture, and texture really are some predefined backgrounds. So you'll notice that you can use these backgrounds. You've got some grids that are great for maths, music notes, and for sports as well. And lastly, custom. And what custom does, it will let you create your own custom backgrounds. One of the common backgrounds that people ask for are the red and blue writing lines that the year ones use. So you could actually upload a photo. There's the measurements of the photo. Upload the photo, it becomes a background. Once you start thinking about it, there are many, many backgrounds that you could use. So if you have something that's repeated and you want multiple students to do it, have it as a background. Let the student come up, do the exercise, save it, wipe it off. Next student can come up and do the exercise. So have a look at that. I think you'll find it's a very powerful option. Going back to our hamburger menu, what you'll notice that from the top now is we can create a new note file. We can open and save. So if you are working in Note and just say at the end of the day you haven't finished with what you're doing, you could save it. Saving will save it on the panel in that folder that we spoke about, in the Notes folder mark. It will save it, and it saves it as an ENB extension, which means it can only be read by Note itself. If the next morning you can come in and then you could open that extension. So you can, for example, do lots of work, create your lessons and just save them so that you can come back to them at any time, just open them up. If you find that you really like whatever it is that you're doing, you've been brainstorming and you want to keep it, then you can always export it as a photo or a PDF. It will export it out onto the panel, and then you're able to move it from that obviously to a USB if you need to put it onto your other computing resources. Import will allow you to import a photo or a PDF. Let's go and import a PDF. So on storage, let's go back to our USB. Let's go to our PDF folder. Let's click on our A is for and select it. Now you'll notice we have our PDF. We can go to those bottom corners, the circles, and actually extend them. And you'll notice that while it's in select mode, and you'll see that because of the arrow on the bottom left of this menu in the middle, you can then move things around. Okay, so just clicking away. Now going back to our lines, that pretty much has looked at everything. If you have got cloud storage connected, then you're able to access that as well. All right, moving along, you'll notice the center bar. So we do have the select selected. As we said, once it's selected, you can actually move things around and make it larger. The next one along is the pen. Now you'll see that if I just click on the pen once, and I will get the default color, whatever that happens to be. If I tap it again, it will come up with a menu. Now we'll notice that we have two pen tabs. One is the white one and one is red. And each of these, so the red one and the white one, and you know that you can change the size of them and everything like that. What you'll see with your pens is that you have a fat nib and a thin nib. So basically what you can do is you can use one nib. So use the thin one and write something, turn the pen around, and then you're able to circle it or underline it, for example. Let me show you how this works. So you can see there that my white one was actually the thin nib, and it is a lot fatter than the red one. The thing about this that's quite handy is you can have multiple people doing things at the same time. Okay, the next one along is the erase. So what that does is we can use that gesture mode to erase. There's actually three ways that you can erase. The first one is using our hand like we just did. The second one, so we've got the next way that we can erase is to draw a circle around it. And the third way to erase is just to stick a line through it. The next one, obviously the delete, what that does is it will delete everything, but then we do have an undo that we can bring it back. The next one along are the shapes. So clicking on the shapes, you'll see there that we have a 2D and 3D shapes. The way this works, you select the shape, place your pen or your finger at its starting point and just drag. So choose the shape, starting point, drag. It works exactly the same with the 3D shapes. You click on the 3D shape, starting point, drag. All right, let's clean all this up and go to the next one. Actually, no, let's undo it. The next one along is the hand. Now, what that does is it allows you to resize what you see. So if you have been brainstorming and you've got lots of text and you need more room, then what you can actually do is place your fingers on the panel itself and you're able to reduce the size of it. So you can see there then that you can reduce it, you can move it. Or if you have a photo or something being displayed and you need to have more you need to clarify and see more information, you can also make it larger. The last option that you have here on this menu is the palette, the color palette. Now you'll see here we have a palette and we can use this to draw. So I can click on the color and I can draw. Click on the color and I can draw. One thing that's really quite handy with this is it's going to be great for teaching children how to mix color. So I have the yellow. If I move a little black dot in the center over to the yellow, and now if I click on pink, you'll see that it now has an option where I've got pink, I've got yellow, and I've also created orange. You can save this, so if the children have done great artwork, you can save it. And obviously you can erase things as well. Okay, so that is, let's go back. That is Note, except for one thing, which is over on the right-hand side. So we have a number of pages. You'll see we have 2 of 2. The reason why we had 2 was because when we brought the PDF in, it actually puts it on a new page. So if I bring that PDF back in now, what you'll see is that it will now change to 3 of 3. And if I tap on the numbers, then you'll see that it has the different ones, and there it is. One of the things that's also handy is that you can have different backgrounds. I'm on number 2, but I could go along and I can change the background to a different color. And then when I go back to looking at my list, what you'll see is that the second one then is a different color. So if you do have children who are visually impaired, for example, in some way, then they'll be able to use the color that suits them best. So that's really Note. That's really the panel itself. If you have any more questions about the panel and how it works, then please do give us a call on 1800-334-633 or send an email to support@ig3education.com.au. Have the most amazing day. Bye.